Hey guys, Native American Tatanka. You're listening to We Are Wrestling Old School versus New School. It's again Native American Tatanka. Peace. I'm out.
Stick to what you know how to do best. That's talking to that and sign checks. Yeah. Leave the rest on to me, Daddy.
Up goes Blanchard. My hard-earned tax money.
1, 2, 3. Guaranteed victory.
It's always you, Brett.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
I can tell you it's going to be a day that I'm never going to forget.
A lot of things I want to get off my chest.
What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host with the most, the best one, Donnie, here with
the Armenian Nightmare, the beast from the Middle East, old school Chaz. What is up, Maniacs? Woo!
This is a new episode of Old School versus New School. But before we get into this week's episode, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, the best way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button now, turning on the post notifications, videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO, and of course you already know the grind is real. And before we get into this episode for this week, usually I, don't talk about personal things on, any of the We Are Wrestling podcasts or shows on here. And it is the night after WrestleMania when this video is coming out. And on the show, Old School versus New School, you guys do not have to worry because me and Chaz, we record these episodes in advance. But I'm going to say it here first on Old School versus New School. I am going to be taking a 2 to 3 week break from content creating from YouTube. And this was a very tough decision for me. For the past 14 years in my life, I've, dedicated those 14 years to content creating. And I've never really given myself a proper break to, find that balance with my mental health and, between content creating and real life. Because in case you guys don't know, being a small content creator is extremely difficult. Not only do I, also do We Are Wrestling full time and, DBTV on the side and Best One Donnie on the side, which are my two other channels outside of here. I also do work a full-time job. I have a fiance, I have family, I have close friends, and for the past year, I have been, going nonstop, trying to grow the We Are Wrestling brand. And I really hope, you We Are Wrestling Maniacs that are, listening to this really, understand where I'm coming from. And, I didn't even think I needed a break until, it was really brought to my attention. And the more time I really had to, sit there and reflect, the more I realized, after WrestleMania, get to the finish line and got to reset because there's going to be a lot of big things coming to We Are Wrestling pretty soon. And I need to make sure that, I'm 150% because burnout is a real thing, guys. And I'm ready to reset. I'm ready to, focus on, finding that balance in my life. And I want to just put that out there that I will not be on the We Are Wrestling podcast for the next 2 to 3 weeks on their show. Ben and Danny, you guys are in great hands with them. They're going to do a fantastic job. And everybody here on the We Are Wrestling channel, they support my decision going into this break. And they know in the long run, I'm here for the long run. But I need to give myself that time to really, reflect and, focus on my mental health so that when I come back, I am, the best one. I'm the host with the most.
That's right, baby.
And of course, I always say in my intro, the grind is real.
It really is.
In real life, I need to start, grinding for real and finding that balance in my life. And on Old School versus New School, these episodes that come out for the next few weeks are going to be pre-taped, which is why, you're going to see me on these episodes of Old School versus New School, because we don't really talk about, upcoming wrestling news, rumors, and stuff. That's all in the We Are Wrestling podcast that air, every Saturday here on the channel. But Ben and Danny, they'll be doing it without me. And you guys are in great hands because Danny already, told me that he's going to have everything under control. And for once in my life, I got to not take control of everything. I got to, really put my trust in Old School Chaz. I got to put my trust in the Lone Ranger, Ben. And unfortunately, this really gives me a lot of wrinkles when I think about this, but I got to put a lot of trust in Eddie Huckins.
No, everybody, we definitely support you, buddy. And, when you brought this to my attention the other day, I was actually relieved because I was worried about you, and you've been nonstop. I mean, you've been burning the candle. I mean, you just talk about burning the candle at both ends. I mean, you've had the whole thing lit on fire, and I mean, but you've been killing it. I mean, you've been in a good way. But I need. You're my best friend, bro. You're my little brother, and I need you to be the best you can be. I need you to be. At the end of the day, I told you I love this channel. We started this channel together.
We did.
And I need you to be best. I need you to be better. I need you to be healthy, physically, mentally, and, I deal with mental health issues as well. So I know. And
that's something that, like, in this world, it really needs to be addressed more because a lot of people really, don't take mental health seriously.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of us, deal with anxiety, depression, and that's something I've dealt with my whole life as well. I lost some pretty close people in my life, and, I've even dealt with, a lot of things going on. And that's the one thing that always helped me was creating content on this YouTube platform. And especially, this past year, finding my love for pro wrestling again has seriously helped me so much. In the background, you guys notice I got a bunch of wrestling figures, and that's something that, has always been a big thing in my life. I've always loved, collecting, wrestling figures. And that's the thing, like, my love for pro wrestling came back because of We Are Wrestling, because of the We Are Wrestling Maniacs. And I know in the long run, this is going to be absolutely worth it. And when I come back, I guarantee you it's going to be the best one. I'm going to be the best one. I'm going to be the host with the most. And you're going to see the best version of me on here. And it's going to be something, that I've been needing for a long time. And I really hope you guys all support my decision.
Yeah, I know I definitely do. And I know Danny and Ben definitely do, and I hope you maniacs definitely understand. And I have a feeling they definitely will. And we have some pretty cool fans, and we have a lot of important stuff coming up, like Donnie said, and some huge stuff coming up. And you need to be better. You need to be focused, and you're going to take that time off and just put that damn phone down and get yourself better, buddy.
Oh, guys, you don't even know how much work goes into, trying to not only, work on your own brand, but also, working on an entire brand for something. But I'm not going to really dive too deep into it. I just want you guys to know that I will be back. The reason why Old School versus New School, you'll see me, or in any videos you do see me, they're all, scheduled uploads. They're all, prepared, ready to go. But I am taking a break after WrestleMania to really reset things. And I already know it's going to help a lot. And I can't wait to come back better than ever.
Yes.
But it feels good to be doing this episode of Old School versus New School now that I, really got to finally, talk to the We Are Wrestling Maniacs about what's going on. And this week on Old School versus New School, we're going to be doing an episode on the enhancing talent, the jobbers.
Yes.
A whole
Yes.
episode dedicated to the ones that had to sacrifice for years, putting other superstars and Hall of Famers over. We're giving a whole episode to them. So, Chaz, as an Old School fan, what is a jobber? What would you consider a jobber or an enhancing talent?
Well, enhancement talent is just like what it says in there. It enhances, like, I know for me, like in the old days, like, back in the day, like in the 80s, when I was at the peak of my fandom, like I always talk about on here, like you'd have a jobber, like say like Brooklyn Brawler, Iron Mike Sharp, even like if you'd have like say Macho Man or somebody like being a real big storyline, he wouldn't be fighting or wrestling the guy he was in the storyline with. He'd be fighting or wrestling an enhancement talent or jobber. And they'd save the big matches for the pay-per-views or the big events, and these guys would go out there and they'd put over, the big names, and they'd have Saturday, Sundays, wrestling superstars, superstars of wrestling, primetime wrestling, all the great shows. And it was just when they had an actual match with two superstars, it was something special. So these guys don't get the thing, people get jobbers, the thing about jobbers twisted. These guys are all, when you're in the WWE or WWF back then, or now AEW or NWA back then, WCW, just because you're called a jobber does not mean you're not talented. That's what people have, that misconception. Jobbers are still very talented, athletes, and absolutely, especially to make somebody else look that good. And
that's the thing, the reason why, because a lot of people, laugh when they see, a jobber go against, a big guy. That's usually how it works in Wrestling 101 when you're trying to put over, somebody big. Like in the beginning of the PG era, they tried putting this guy Ryback over. Pretty much, a Walmart version of Goldberg, let's be honest. But the man, the way they would put him over was he would be wrestling jobbers or enhancing talent. And then it would be two of them that would go against him. And then eventually three. And then he would have a solid rivalry with, a WWE superstar. But it's their way of debuting and getting their foot in the door.
Yeah.
And I think that something that, really needs to be recognized, especially in this episode, might as well say it now in the beginning of the episode while, we get into this. I think that if you are a jobber or an enhancing talent and you are doing work on television like AEW or WWE or Impact or NWA, you have talent.
Absolutely. Vince does not sign garbage, you know what I mean? Or Tony Khan. They're not going to give you a contract because you suck, you know what I mean? So, or
an opportunity. Even.
Well said.
They're not going to give an opportunity to somebody that sucks. Like if you're not ready, you will be on the independent circuit.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said.
But when it comes down to it, who are some of the jobbers that stood out to you?
Oh, I can right off the bat. While I was saying, like Brooklyn Brawler, one of my favorite jobbers, was Iron Mike Sharp. Loved Iron Mike Sharp. He was this Canadian, and he wore this arm brace, and he wore it for like, in the story, it was funny because all that, Lord Alfred Hayes and, Gorilla Monsoon would always complain their bitch that he's been wearing this for 3 or 5 years now. And, when's his arm going to get
it added some character to him.
Yeah. And it was great. And the funny part is what he would do is he, would take it and he'd act like he was loading something into it. And then he would clothesline somebody. And, say if they had a jobber versus, another jobber, like there was like upper level jobbers, like, somebody like Leapin' Lanny Poffo, and and you know, he would hit him with the thing and then pin him. You know, it was really cool. It was fun. Then you'd have like, you know, two guys that we like to watch. Grimm, you know, Grimm's Toy Show. He actually trained Grimm and Duhop.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes, fun fact.
Wait, Macho Man's brother trained Grimm.
No, Iron Mike Sharp.
Oh, Mike Sharp. Okay.
Yep.
That's pretty cool though. Because didn't Grimm like get into wrestling? Because I thought he like did wrestling in like the early 2000s at first before, you know, not doing it for a while. And then he got big on, you know, his Silly Super Pops channel, doing his wrestling figure videos, and then eventually did GTS.
Yep. But they actually are wrestlers. I mean, they were actually trained. So every wrestler that you see on that show was actually trained. You know,
man, that's impressive. It doesn't look like they've been freaking trained.
Sometimes, I mean, yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think they do.
I can't get into GTS wrestling. I love Grimm, but I just can't get into it.
It's goofy and they do it on purpose, but yeah. Anyways.
Man, I'm sorry, but like when I was doing backyard wrestling as a kid, my shit on the trampoline looked better than fucking GTS wrestling. I'm sorry.
Come on, he gets some big names,
Grimm's a creative mind, though. I will give Grimm that.
Definitely, yeah.
Great YouTuber. I love that, you know, he's giving these, you know, guys an opportunity, but it's just not my cup of tea, and that's okay.
No, absolutely. Everybody has their thing, you know. So, who was your, like, when you think of jobbers, like, who comes to your mind?
Oh, easily Attitude Era, man. We had a whole freaking faction called the Job Squad.
There you go.
We had friggin' Hardcore Holly. We had Al Snow. And, you know, even Head. You can't forget Head.
No, absolutely. What does everybody want?
But here's the one guy, though, for me, that was one of my favorites. In the Attitude Era, the one and only, in my opinion, a lot better in the ring than Goldberg. Gilbert is one of my all-time favorite friggin' jobbers, enhancing talent. And the fact that, like, he's, you know, the fact that, like, he's not one of those talent that, like, wanted more. Like, he was okay with this role, and, like, he went all in on the Gilbert character.
Exactly.
Made it so fantastic.
Yes. That was the thing about some of the, if you're given a certain character and you make it work and you can do that, then Vince is going to keep bringing you back. You know, if you're just going out there and you're not, that's why Steve Lombardi had all the characters that he played, you know, like,
and that's the thing, Chaz, there's so many, and I mean, so many great pro wrestlers today.
Yeah.
But a lot of them aren't remembered because they don't take a step back. And there's a reason why a guy like Gilbert or some of these, you know, enhancing jobber talent that we're going to be talking about on this episode are remembered for what they've done. Maybe they didn't have a Hall of Fame career. Maybe they didn't win world championships in main event WrestleMania. But they're still remembered to this day from us die-hard wrestling maniacs.
Absolutely.
And that's something that, like, when it comes to, you know, being a new school fan, it kind of disappoints me that some of these, you know, talented guys are so good in the ring, but they lack character.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, if they did just take a step back and just like Goldust used to do, that would actually help them so much. Like I'm going to be doing for friggin' 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. They take themselves too seriously.
But God, I loved Gilbert. All right. He came
Gilbert
out, he had
with
the security guards. He had the friggin'
sparklers.
The sparklers. Absolutely. And he was one of the best light heavyweight champions. Probably my favorite light heavyweight champion in WWE of all time. That's my hot take right there.
Oh, absolutely.
God, I love Gilbert. Way better than Goldberg, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. He's definitely a better worker and safer.
A lot safer.
Oh, absolutely. One of my favorites, who actually ended up becoming an upper level jobber, was a guy you met recently, was Barry Horowitz. Loved me some Barry Horowitz. So talented. Guy. So talented in the ring. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like before I met him at Zombie Hideout earlier this year, I did do my research, and like all I could find was matches of him putting people over throughout his
Yep.
career. I remember, watching his match with Owen Hart.
Yeah, they gave him a quick push though. They started giving him a push, and for a little while, and he started winning some matches.
And that's the thing you notice about a lot of these, jobbers. A lot of them are veterans in the ring.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually,
you have to know the business from inside out to, be a good jobber, because you're putting people over and you're not really putting yourself over.
Right. And a lot of these guys are also are heels too. And as you know, what a lot of maniacs might not know, heels are the ones who call the matches in the ring.
That's right. What about today? Like in today's wrestling, Chaz, do the heels still call it, or do you think like they just go with whoever they like?
I think it's still pretty much the heels. Yeah. From what I've heard in most of the shoot interviews and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just because of tradition and stuff. Yeah.
Another jobber that really stands out to me. Also, another new school guy, probably one of the most popular, enhancement talent as of late, James Ellsworth.
Oh, speaking of GTS.
Yeah, James Ellsworth, man, like he was just supposed to have a one-off on Monday Night Raw against the debuting Braun Strowman. They were trying to build Braun Strowman as, the monster among men.
Yep.
And, with Braun Strowman, you had, James Ellsworth, just this little guy, like has no chin at all, blonde hair, and, pretty much just running his mouth and then getting his ass beat. And then we get to see him on SmackDown with AJ Styles, and he even got a WWE Championship match as well.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's the thing about James Ellsworth was, like, it was supposed to be a one-off, but because he was so into the character.
Yeah.
And he was so,
like I said,
putting, like, the way he put Braun Strowman over in his, his first match in WWE, to, working with AJ Styles, being on the SmackDown brand, helping Carmella when she won the Money in the Bank contract.
Yep.
He made the best of every situation that was given to him.
Yep. Because why? Because like a lot of, just like you said before, like a lot of these guys nowadays that he actually knew what he had, and he actually was appreciative of where the spot that he was in, and he ran with it.
And he took full advantage of the opportunity that was given to him.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I really, respect out of James Ellsworth. And like even outside of WWE, he's also doing a pretty fantastic job as well. Like when he left WWE the first time, he made this, mixed gender championship belt, and he would go on to,
Yes.
independent circuits defending it against, guys and girls. And, he has made himself a fantastic, underrated career, all because of being, an enhancement talent.
Yeah, that was actually a nod to one of the guys who was just, as this airs, was just inducted into the Hall of Fame this past weekend. The late great Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman,
who was the first who started that intergender thing. But he would only wrestle women.
Yeah, man. I watched a documentary not that long ago on Andy and Jerry the King Lawler.
Such a great feud. Oh my gosh. Such an amazing feud.
Fantastic.
It's about time. About time. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. Any more jobbers that stand out to you? You can think of?
Yeah, actually one jobber that actually when the LJN figures came out, this guy got not only one figure. This is a jobber that got a figure, not only one, but two. And it wasn't a variant. It was actually two actual figures, because it was two completely different figures. SD Special Delivery Jones.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Yep.
And that's the thing, even like James Ellsworth, that's another guy. He actually ended up getting a couple figures from WWE as well. And that's the crazy thing. Like a lot of these average, good pro wrestlers that are so good in the ring, and we all know it, but, they're lacking character, and, They're not like taking really a step back, or they're not taking a step forward and trying to be a main eventer.
Right.
This is what you can get in your career if you, really get into it. Another one that, definitely needs to be talked about has got to be Funaki.
Oh gosh, yes.
Man,
yes.
Funaki, the number one commentator on SmackDown. And like, he's been somebody that like made a whole freaking career on putting guys over.
Yeah.
He started in the Attitude Era, and then, he, I think, had like about like 10 to like 15 years in WWE before retiring. Even like 2008, he, revived himself as Khan Funaki. And
Absolutely.
like, he did a fantastic job, always putting talent over. And there's a reason why he was employed for that long.
That's exactly. You see a running theme here,
And it was cool though seeing him compete though in the Cruiserweight Championship, like around 2004, 2005. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, definitely. One guy, actually, this is going to be another fun fact. This is interesting. Another guy I used to, when I first started watching, was this guy named Barry O. I don't know if you remember this guy. He had the long blonde hair and a big, kind of looked like Owen Hart, a cross between Owen Hart and Johnny from the Karate Kid. He had the
yes, okay,
yeah,
that does ring a bell to me.
And Barry O. He was called Barry O because his last name happens to be Orton.
Oh,
he's Cowboy Bob Orton's brother.
Oh, no shit.
Uncle of Randy Orton. Yes.
No shit. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Holy shit. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Just like when I was younger, like I didn't really know that like Manny Paflo, I didn't even know like he was related to Macho Man.
Leaping Lanny. Yeah, I didn't realize that until later on when I, after I was older. Yeah.
Crazy. But there's one more guy that I really, want to talk about before we take this, break.
Sure.
One of, my favorite jobbers in the Ruthless Aggression era had to be Simon Dean. He was a legend in ECW. He did stuff with, the Blue World Order, with, the Blue Meanie and, Stevie Richards. But, in WWE during the Ruthless Aggression era, they were really trying, different characters, and, some things sticked, some things didn't. But one thing that, was friggin' amazing was the Simon Dean character. So pretty much he was a Walmart version of DDP Yoga, trying to sell, his own Simon system. And like, he would do these like videos of like him doing cardio and stuff. And then he would come out like on like the bicycle to the ring and like try to sell you his products. He would wear the tracksuit as well.
Yeah.
And like, he just did some funny spots through the years, like with Eugene and like Boogeyman. I remember the Boogeyman one. Absolutely fantastic. And then like he would just pretty much piss the crowd off, like on the microphone, calling them fat, calling them overweight.
Yep.
How they need to, work out and stuff.
He took a page out of Rick Rude's book. Yep.
And like, really try to sell the Simon system.
That's awesome. Yeah. That was great.
Can't forget the Spirit Squad either.
Oh gosh, no. Definitely.
Kenny, definitely. Johnny, Mitch, Nikki, Mikey, and we are the Spirit Squad.
Oh my goodness.
Because man, let me tell you, when they put friggin' DX over in 2006,
oh yes,
they did a great job.
Yeah,
and then the best part about it all was when
they had the crap dumped on them and everything.
Yeah, but the best part was when they wrote them off of TV. Shawn Michaels and Triple H put them in like a crate, and the crate said sent to OVW.
Yeah.
You love it. But guys, we'll be right back with more old school versus new school.
No.
Oh, he tried it.
Please don't try this. this at home.
We're back with more old school versus new school. Before we get back into the jobbers, want to give the We Are Wrestling Maniacs heads up that Saturday, June 17th, 2023, at the South End Community Center in Springfield, Mass. We Are Wrestling will be teaming up with Zombie Hideout and Captain's Corner for their big New England Wrestling Convention, the Wrestling Classic 3. We will be there with merchandise. We're going to be having a table. We're going to be vlogging, and it's going to be one experience that you're definitely not going to want to miss on Saturday, June 17th. If you're in the Western Mass area, the Massachusetts and, Connecticut area, we will be there. Best One Donnie, Old School Chaz, Danny Huckins, and the Lone Ranger Ben. All four of us from We Are Wrestling will be there. We're going to be having merchandise. We're going to be giving away stuff, and we're going to be, of course, vlogging. You are not going to want to miss the Wrestling Classic 3 because there's going to be some legends at this event that you can have the opportunity to meet, like Hall of Famer Kurt Angle. You can meet the Guns from AEW, who are the tag team champions right now, by the way, as we're recording this episode. Also, Diamond Dallas Page, DDP, and so many more talent that are going to be announced on Saturday, June 17th. You're not going to want to miss it. The Wrestling Classic 3. Cheers to the hardworking men.
Absolutely.
With, jobbers, they are, the hardest working men in the business because they don't get the credit where it's due. They're the ones that have to take the most bumps. They have to, put these superstars and main event guys over.
Yeah.
And I really want to get into some of the enhancement talent, some of the guys who should have had more in their career.
Okay.
Guys that, wanted to have more in their career, but never really got that opportunity to. And a lot of fans, would portray them as enhancing talent, jobbers, didn't do enough. Like, in sports, when a team drafts a player with, let's say, a first round pick, and they don't live up to the expectations, they're called a bust.
Yes.
And I really think that, what better way to, talk about wrestling bust than an episode where we're talking about the unappreciated superstars.
Absolutely. One for me that probably comes to mind is Santino Marella.
Santino Marella. That man, he was one of, the best comedy characters out there. And his actually, believe it or not, because I just listened to an interview with him and Chris Van Vliet. It was actually only supposed to be like a one-off. Like he, got called up from OVW, and they did this, I believe, in, around like in the Italy area where Umaga, had an open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship, and Santino Marella, was a babyface, and, he was trying to get over and stuff with the crowd. But of course, they were trying to shove, this nice, innocent Italian man over with the crowd. And of course, when you shove things in professional wrestling fans' mouths, they are going to spit it out. And Santino then, turned heel, and his goal, was to be a funny character, to get himself over because he wanted to be different than, a John Cena or a Shawn Michaels or a Triple H at the time.
Sure.
And, he made a whole career out of it, even had, his own finisher, the Cobra, and he had his own freaking Cobra puppet as well.
It's like his Mr. Sacco. Yep.
And there was even one time in 2011 where in the Royal Rumble, he was in the final two with Alberto Del Rio. And during the Elimination Chamber, a lot of people wanted Vince McMahon to call an audible and have Santino Marella win the chamber match because of how over he was with the crowd at that time.
Right. Nice.
And honestly, man, I got to say that was a great answer, saying Santino Marella.
Yeah, it was definitely a guy that deserved. I mean, he was great with the comedy, but I think he was actually a good worker, I think he could have been something. He could have been good in a faction, maybe, something like, I know they had like the Italians, the full-blooded Italians.
Oh, the FBI.
Yeah. But he could have been.
He did have a solid title run though with the Intercontinental title for quite a bit.
Yeah.
But when he got like more popular, they definitely fumbled it with him.
Yeah.
But I gotta say though, I'm glad to see him, doing some comedy stuff in Impact Wrestling and seeing them, get the trademark
yeah,
for the name Santino Marella.
Yes, that's always good when you can get anything away from Vince McMahon.
Unfortunately, Ezekiel Jackson couldn't get his name. But one of the most underappreciated wrestlers that never really got the opportunities that they deserve, and this one obviously has got to be one of my favorites, and he's absolutely killing it right now in the independent circuit. Zack Ryder, man. I don't know how WWE fumbled that.
Dude, and you know how big a Zack Ryder and fan I am. Love Matt Cardona, bro. Love Matt Cardona.
It's so mind-blowing that, like, you were in the most famous arena, Madison Square Gardens, Survivor Series 2011, and you have The Rock and John Cena versus R-Truth and The Miz. And the entire time, especially when The Rock got the microphone after the match, all of them were chanting, "We want Ryder." How do you not do something with that? You have the most electrifying man in sports entertainment in that fucking ring.
Yeah.
And you have
don't take notice of that?
"We want Ryder."
Yeah. Tell me, and Vince being at MSG, he was there, obviously. Don't tell me he didn't hear that and take notice. I mean, come on.
And that's the thing, like, for me, I always felt the reason why Chaz, WWE never really gave Zack Ryder that main event push was because they hate when a superstar puts themselves over, and they hate when a superstar, can get themselves over without WWE. And that's what Zack Ryder did. The man was not getting any opportunities on TV.
He had no choice.
So what did he do? He made a YouTube web series called Z True Long Island Story.
Yeah, he had no choice. It's not like he went into business for himself, like, and went against the WWE. Like, he had no choice. It's not like he was supposed to do a job and just didn't. I mean, there's a difference. There's a big difference. He was just forced. His hand was forced.
And that's the thing, like, I'm glad that, like, he did win, the Intercontinental title during that Mania surprise, but then, like, the night after Mania, they just have The Miz, beat him.
Yeah.
And then, like, they have him do these big wins. They get our hopes up, and then it's like they go back to the drawing boards, and then you see him not even come out with wrestling music, and then him putting, talent over.
Yeah.
There's people out there that understand they have to make careers out of jobbers and being enhancing talent, but Zack Ryder is not one of them.
Dude, I saw a match today doing research I saw a freaking match. Remember I was telling you that Shane McMahon was back in 89 was actually refereeing when he was like a teenager. This jobber beat the Brooklyn Brawler. I don't even know. I never even heard of this other guy. He had music back in 1989. This guy had music. Never even heard of this dude. And they can't give Zack. Get the fuck out of here.
And that's the thing. Like, when I see a talent that's not being utilized properly go outside of WWE and strive, I live for that shit. I love that shit. And Matt Cardona right now is probably the most popular independent wrestler out there. And he's absolutely killing it right now. He doesn't need AEW. He doesn't need WWE.
No. I would have low-key, I don't care. I would have liked to see him do better. I would have loved to see him in AEW though. And he was a perfect fit for AEW as far as I'm concerned. Like, that Cardona character would have been really great in AEW.
I don't know, man. I don't think he needs AEW or WWE.
No,
I feel like
he needed it, but he would have been he would have been a better fit there than he would have been in WWE.
Well, Matt Cardona had everything like to fit perfect in sports entertainment. It's just they never, gave him the ball and let him run with it. And the problem was, like, in the independent, and that's the thing, like, why I'm happy that it didn't work out in AEW for him, because honestly, he's really putting independent wrestling back on the map.
Yes. That actually, I got to agree with you. That's
GCW was able to sell out, the ballroom because of, Matt Cardona really, getting some viral stuff at GCW to really, put it on the map for like not only the people that were located like in, the territory where, GCW shows were taking place, but now like for like some of even the casuals know what GCW is because of what Matt Cardona has been doing, because you hear about it.
Right. I mean, we definitely support. We're big supporters of indie wrestling on here, local wrestling. We support our local wrestling on this channel big time.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And We Are Wrestling, we're, a proud, partner with Blitzkrieg Pro in our area. They put on fantastic shows. We sponsor matches for them, and you can, check out so much great independent wrestling on IWTV for only $10 a month.
Yes, absolutely.
So much fantastic talent on there that you could watch.
Donnie and I just went to a show this past weekend at Northeast Wrestling in Bethany, Connecticut. Incredible show.
And these are the guys that are going to be, either the future jobbers or, the future main event guys for years to come.
We saw a few guys that were really, I mean, like that kid, Casey Navarro. That kid's going to definitely be a star. I mean, I can, if somebody doesn't pick him up, I mean, he's got a great look, great, entrance. Everything was for going in a place that small and to be able to put on a show like he did, he was just so smooth. Everything was clean.
Yep. Keep your eyes on Alec Price. Yes. But who's another person that, deserved more?
I gotta say, Alex Riley.
Wow. You're going with a lot of new school people, Chaz. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
That's somebody, as well. I watched an interview with Chris Van Vliet on, and I believe he just came back to wrestling. He's been doing some stuff in the independents, and he was, being booked like The Miz.
Yeah, another Miz thing with The Miz. Yeah.
Like in FCW, the territory before NXT, Alex Riley was like the face of, that promotion. And then, they pair him up with The Miz during, The Miz's, big break in wrestling where he won the WWE Championship, main evented WrestleMania. They had Alex Riley by his side, but due to, some politics stuff that happened backstage, I believe him and John Cena really didn't see eye to eye. It didn't really work out for him, and injuries, caught up to him as well.
Didn't he help him win the Money in the Bank?
He did help The Miz win the Money in the Bank. He was like The Miz's protege, and then like he went on his own. He was doing good, and then
because he had a great look too. He
had some injury. He had some injuries as well, and that's something that can definitely make or break a wrestler, because
for sure
you could be very, 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 very hot, and then immediately you get injured, you can be cold.
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the big reasons that I can see that one thing that Kenny Omega would never go, that Vince would never take Kenny Omega, or Triple H would never pull the trigger on Kenny Omega. As amazing as he is, that he's just too injury prone.
Yeah, he has been, dealing with some injuries and stuff too.
I mean, look at what he does to himself,
Well, that's a lot of AEW guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But we talked about that a couple of episodes ago with the high spots and shit.
I gotta say, another person that I felt like deserves so much more, and he was even like a jobber in Hanson Talent at one point. He was also during the era of Santino Marella and Alex Riley, Damian Sandow.
Oh, yes.
Even William Regal recently said on a podcast that he doesn't know why WWE, they fumbled that.
He was so talented. I mean, he was doing the comedy thing, but he was just so good.
Oh, I'm talking about the stuff before the comedy thing.
Oh, I know. No, I know. But I'm saying but when he did the comedy stuff, that's what I'm saying. He was so good. He was so much better than that.
And that's the thing, man, with Damian Sandow. Like, his character, like, could have done big things during this time, because there was really, like, he was very old school. His character had the plain tights. He had, the bathrobe.
Yeah, he had the bathrobe.
And like, he talked intelligently, and really used like his brain to, get himself out of matches and stuff, like to get these easy wins.
He reminded me of the
destined
genius.
For big things.
He reminded me of the genius. Lanny Poffo. That's who his character was reminding me of.
And I'll tell you, like, when they ruined Damian Sandow, that Money in the Bank contract cash in when he didn't win the title.
Mm,
He should have beat John Cena.
that would have been.
And that's the thing, like, even when he was doing the whole Mizdow thing with The Miz, he was very over, he was very popular, but then, like, he just got lost in the shuffle after that whole Money in the Bank,
Yes.
failed cash in.
You're
Just
right.
like Baron Corbin.
Yep. Yep.
Another guy, like, during the Lone Wolf, like, he was, he should have done more.
Yeah. I mean,
And now he's fucking Happy Corbin. Hate that shit.
Anyways, that's a whole nother episode.
You got that right.
But
who's an old school guy that you thought deserved more?
I'll go with Weepin' Lanny Poffo because he was so talented in that ring. So talented. I mean, he did have that win on Saturday Night's Main Event over Hulk Hogan. Albeit it was a count by count out, but it was a win over Hulk Hogan on Saturday Night's Main Event, which was
old
huge.
School Chaz.
Yes.
Does him beating Hulk Hogan via count out, is that in the WWE record books?
Oh yeah.
Well, that means it does count. Hulkamania lost to freaking the Genius.
No. What I mean is, it didn't count as like him like winning. Like, I mean, he didn't win the championship or anything. You know what I mean?
But you still beat him.
Yeah,
count out
exactly.
And around that time, a lot of people can't say that with Hulk Hogan.
No, especially on like Saturday Night's Main Event. I mean, Hogan put and Lanny up until his death a few weeks ago or a few months ago. Never forgot that.
Nobody ate more vitamins than Hulk Hogan during that time. No pun intended. And if you know what I'm talking about, brother, you know.
Brother. This stuff he was doing, we talked about it, and I talked about it a few episodes ago. He was doing like moonsaults, and I mean, he was so athletic. The guy was so good, so good. A Genius would have been, when they paired him up with Mr. Perfect, that's what killed his character.
I think so too, man.
He definitely could have got a push, with the IC belt. That would have been.
And that's the thing in pro wrestling. I always say it. Timing is everything. And if you don't pull the trigger on something, like when the time is there, it can make or break a wrestling career easily.
He was the first Great North champion, though.
So that's a territory that's outside of WWF?
Yeah, you've heard of Hannibal TV?
I have heard of Hannibal TV.
That's Hannibal's territory.
Oh, no shit.
He's the booker for that. He's the owner, actually.
Damn.
Yep. He had a great feud with Hannibal, as a matter of fact. You can check that out.
There's a lot of guys in the business that deserved a lot more, but obviously, everybody, they got their preferred talents in wrestling. Like, everybody's favorite is different, and that's the thing that I love about pro wrestling, even though us wrestling fans could be so toxic and negative, like Danny Huckins. Like, that's the thing, man. When it comes down to it,
Poor Danny.
We're all special.
Yes.
And there's so
Not
many,
like Eugene
iconic
special,
characters through the years.
That's damn right.
Like, as a kid, one of my favorites was Scotty 2 Hotty.
Yeah. That's a perfect example of somebody that, was given a spot, was very talented, but was given a character that wasn't so serious, but made the best of what he had.
Same thing with Brian Christopher, too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, same thing with Brian. They were over like Rover.
Man, too much. That's, who reminds me of too much in today's wrestling?
Is that?
The Guns.
Wow. Good call.
They have that same, presence to them. They have the charisma on the microphone, and it's cool to see. It's very, very cool. You have Austin Gunn, who's like vocal, like Brian Christopher, and then you have, Scott Taylor, who's like Colton. And that's the thing, like now, speaking of AEW, I want to get into AEW a little bit because they have taken some, things from the old school side of things with having talent go against, jobbers and enhancing talent.
Yeah.
I see it more on the AEW product than I do the WWE product. And they even have, AEW Dark, where most of the matches are pretty much, top independent wrestlers going against these guys.
Yes.
And them, putting over the AEW stars. So how do you feel about that move? Because I know there's a lot of wrestling fans out there that criticize Tony Khan for not really doing enough on Dark or Elevation. And, some of the matchups are not as good.
No, I love it because I understand that's what Dark is about. See, if you get, in my opinion, what Dark is about, remember I told you how, back in the 80s, how they would have the, the house show, like on Primetime Wrestling, they'd show like the matches from like Madison Square Garden or like Boston Garden. And, and some of my favorite matches from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, they would have the arena would be dark, like dark lit, and they'd have the one, ring light, the light above the ring, and it would be dark lit. And I think that's the kind of feel when he called it Dark. I think that's what he's going for. And to have that enhancement talent, kind of build up and give them that chance than to fight on, Rampage or to get them built up for Rampage or Dynamite.
And that's the thing, like, I will give Tony Khan credit where it's due. I got to give the man credit for, getting some pretty underrated talent because of, the AEW Dark system.
Yep.
In case you guys didn't know, before the Acclaimed were one of the most popular tag teams in All Elite Wrestling, they were on Dark. They did a lot of stuff during, the pandemic when we were in lockdown and they were, wrestling at Daly's place with no crowd. Right. The Acclaimed, came out of that. Also,
but they honed their craft. Look at them now.
The Guns, they came out of that as well. And there's just a lot of fantastic, wrestlers that, did some stuff on Dark and they were given an opportunity in AEW to show what they could do. And that's something, like, my opinion about AEW Dark. Like, I wish that, like,
I could be wrong, but that's what I think. That's what I think he's doing. That's what I think he's going for.
And that's the thing, like, with Tony Khan, I wish that the man would find other people to book these shows. Like, he could stick to booking AEW Dynamite or whatever, because he, is the owner. He's the CEO, so it's going to go his way regardless. But, like,
right.
on AEW Dark and Elevation, why don't you give a veteran like Mark Henry or, Arn Anderson or The Big Show or somebody,
or Jake the Snake. I mean,
that's backstage.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett,
Jake the Snake.
Let them book Dark and Elevation to really try to put some talent over and see what sticks and see what doesn't stick. Instead of just always having the
Jim
shows
Ross,
where you have these guys that are not getting enough TV time, like Lance Archer. They go on Dark, they go against somebody we, don't know, and he beats them. Cool. And then, it's the same thing every single week. Let's get some storylines in there with some of the guys that aren't being used on TV. That's my only issue. I love that Tony Khan is giving, thousands of independent wrestlers an opportunity to, show what they can do on Dark and, Elevation. But I just wish that, like, we can just get a little bit more and it's not as predictable, which is why I kind of like how in today's wrestling, they don't always do, like, the matches where you have, the popular guy or, the top heel go against an enhancing talent. Because I like the unpredictability when it comes to, the matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 120%. And that's what I loved about back in the day because, he's not giving everything away all like the WWE does constantly.
But that's the thing, like with Dark, it's so predictable. And that's like why I don't really watch it as much.
I mean, it's predictable because
I know they're trying to get talent over. They're trying to do stuff behind the scenes and they're just, showcasing it. It's the same thing that WWE does with superstars in main event. Right. They tape them before, the tapings and stuff. I know regular Dark, they do, individual tapings at, Universal Studios, but I do know Elevation, they record those episodes before Dynamite and before Rampage.
One of the things I'd like to talk about is some of the guys, some of the superstars that are superstars now that were jobbers.
First one that comes to my mind, Jeff and Matt Hardy. New generation era.
Absolutely. I was listening to Jim Ross actually last night with Conrad Top. They were 17 years old when Jim Ross started using Jeff Hardy.
Man, you know what's crazy? Sometimes I look back at, some of those squash matches that happened, and I wonder, was Jeff and Matt at the time Nick and Matt Jackson?
Very close, man.
Because they look friggin'
very close.
So friggin' alike.
Yeah.
Same gear, too, at the time.
Yeah, very close.
Young Bucks.
Very close. I mean, you can't tell me the Young Bucks obviously had to be huge freaking, Hardy Boy marks,
And that's something with WWE that I always find fascinating, is always looking back on their going on YouTube and always looking at these stars before, making it into the business, like seeing, Bobby Roode and Eric Young in a tag match on a random episode.
Oh, I was actually going to say Bobby Roode.
Before they, went to TNA, they did, some stuff there. You had even, Christopher Daniels even did some stuff during the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
AJ Styles friggin' wrestled on their show called Jacked.
Christopher Daniels did a lot of stuff on Shotgun Saturday Night and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really signed at the time. They were just trying to, see what sticks and see what doesn't and, give opportunities out. Daniel Bryan, he was another guy too.
One of the biggest names that I can say that was a guy in WCW, Terror Horizon. We talked about this a few episodes ago. Became Triple H.
So before he was doing the Triple H thing, he was, putting talent over.
Yep.
And I feel like that's something like old school wrestling minds because of how the business was back in the day. And I might be wrong here. You can correct me because you're old school Chaz. So, you were born in 1937, brother.
Yep.
But I want to know, behind the scenes, because there's a lot of politicking in, wrestling. Was that their way of getting into the door? They had to earn respect was by putting guys over?
Definitely had to earn respect as far as with the old timers for sure. And also if they did the job and how they reacted back in the dressing room too, back in the locker rooms, because the old timers ran the show back then, and they, if they kept their mouths shut and didn't, even if they did a really good job and if they just kept quiet and were humble, they would get all the respect in the world.
Yeah, that's the thing. Respect was a big thing back in the day. And I felt like that, went on until, pretty much after the PG era. And that's the thing. It was always, a respectful thing to put somebody over. And, you have to, be selfless, and you have to be selfless in the business when you first get in it. And then when you're in it, that's when you need to get selfish.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
And all the old school versus new school maniacs know this is how we end our episodes off every week here on the series. So when it comes to enhancing talent and jobbers, who do you got, Chaz? Old school or new school?
I'm going to, wow, this one's a tough one, but I'm going to say old school only because they had that respect, and there was a lot more. Jobbers were more of a thing back then, and they helped along the storylines, some of the biggest storylines back then. So I'm going to have to give it to, and some of the jobbers were actually famous back then. They were really superstars. So I'm going to have to give it, just by not too much, but I'm going to give it to old school this time.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to have to pick old school over new school because, when it's all said and done, back in the day, the jobbers, had one job, and that was, to put over the main event talent in this business. And if, we're talking main event talent in this business, come on, old school, they run marathons over new school when it comes to creating larger than life characters. And,
Sure.
these jobbers, their job is to, make these superstars, to make these Hall of Famers in the business. And nowadays, we don't really get that because I feel like a lot of these, enhanced end talent, these jobbers, they, still they do stuff in the ring and like they try to show off when
Yes.
their job should be to not be showing off. It
No.
should be putting that person that you're in the ring with over.
Make them look good.
Make
Yep.
them look like $1 million fucking
Yes.
dollars. Make them look like they're freaking Roman Reigns.
Yes. You're not in there to make yourself look good. The person, if you do that, the guy you're in the ring with will help you and make you look pretty good on your own. If you get that respect, those guys will do that for you.
And that's the thing, man, with AEW Dark. Like, these aren't all squash matches that they do. Like, you have these guys that you haven't seen or anything or even heard of them. They go against, guys like Lance Archer for like 10 minutes. And like back in the day,
that's pretty long now.
That would have been back in the day, that would have been 2 to 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Probably 3 minutes at most. But guys, let us know in the comments section below your thoughts on, some of your favorite jobbers, through the years
And
in
memories,
the business.
Definitely.
We wanted to give them, the light in this episode because, of course, when this comes out, it is, the night after WrestleMania. And what better way to, give the spotlight to the guys that, make the Hall of Famers, to make the legends, to make some of the best wrestlers in the business and put them over on this episode. We're jobbing out to the jobbers, old school.
Absolutely.
Chaz.
Absolutely.
But guys, if you enjoyed this week's episode of Old School versus New School, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not, we are Wrestling Maniac. You are ready. Subscribe, turn on the post notifications. The link's down in the description below. You can go follow Chaz and I on our social medias. In addition, you want shorter clips of, the We Are Wrestling podcast here on the YouTube channel. You can go, check us out on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All the links down in the description below. But of course, to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.
Cheers.